Let's go. Welcome to Being Heard, Two Black Women with Coffee and Conversation. I am Lya, and I am co-hosting with Dana. Today, we have a special guest, Corey Dion Lewis, the Healthy Project podcast host and creator of My City, My Health Equity Summit, happening here in Des Moines, November 11th at Mainstream Studios. If you're interested, we're going to drop a link so that you can register to come hear more about what is happening surrounding health equity. Our podcast is about two Black women who decided, hey, we don't feel like we get heard. So here's an opportunity for us to freely express and talk about the things that mainstream media may not pick up. As Malcolm X said, the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. Forget that being seen and not heard. Get into Being Heard, Two Black Women, Coffee and Conversations with Lya and Dana. And let's discuss what matters to you and what matters to us. Good morning, Corey. Welcome today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you both.
What's up, Corey?
How are you doing?
Good.
Dana was my first interview ever. My first actual news interview ever.
What? Shut up.
Outside of sports, like ever.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I enjoy writing about, everything, your podcast, and, being the first one to kind of help put you out there. And
yeah,
because there's a lot of journalism type people that follow me at Black Iowa News on Twitter. And I'm glad that they saw you because you're doing great things. I mean, you started out local and now you've interviewed people from all around the world. And I think that's just so tremendous. So I'm glad that we can, again, help bring more light to what you're doing and share your stories with, everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So now we're about to talk about your upcoming summit. So what's up with that? What's going on with the planning? And I know the clock's ticking. We're almost, to November somehow. So how's it going?
It's been a learning experience. I've learned so much just from this process of just not of myself, just about planning. You know what I mean? This is why it's one of those things where you pray for, you ask for something like this, and then when it happens, you're not ready for it.
You got to get ready.
Yeah. So, but I've had great people around me. Even though there's been a lot, I've had really good people to really kind of help me through this process. So I wouldn't say it's been easy, but it hasn't been as stressful than you may think. The only stressful thing is for me is like just waiting for the day, like just waiting. Okay, my gosh, like it's almost here. Like, oh my gosh, it's almost here. But from getting the speakers to getting the moderators, from getting the space to getting the sponsors, it's been a great experience. It's been something that I didn't do well at first, knowing what I do know, I know there's some things I can do better to make sure I get more organized in that way. But other than that, man, I think people are just so hungry for this conversation that made it easy for the process to go a lot smoother.
It's interesting that people are hungry for the conversation, given how kind of divided and polarized, society is right now, especially when you say anything about race or equity or equality or anything. You always got some other side want to argue, that's racist, just talking about it. So it doesn't sound like you have encountered that when you went to talk to people about, coming on board and having these, really difficult conversations. It's not really easy all the time to dredge up some of this stuff. Some of it's very painful.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of it too is kind of, preaching to the choir. The people that I'm talking to about this conversation, they like, yes, let's have this conversation, because they've been wanting this conversation for a long time. And the challenge is getting those people like you were talking about who don't understand why to come and listen and say, this is why, this is how, or even those allies that want to make a change but just don't know where to start. Come here and listen to those that are doing the work, and hopefully you can leave there with one idea to change that. But you have those people out there that just don't understand. I got into a little Twitter beef on Black Iowa News Twitter. You know what I'm saying? Some dude
look, do tell, because I was curious, because in mainstream media, the whole ploy of white lives matter, who we won't name, who did all that, and then you got to see your own people coming out the gate. So you too, you got a Twitter beef? Let's go.
Well, it was very small, and it was actually reassuring. Okay. So Dana posted the second article about the My City, My Health, and somebody went off the wall and was like, it's stuff like this that he says something crazy. And my immediate emotion was to get my thumbs ready. And I
Twitter
did.
Fingers.
And I did. But then I stopped and I deleted it. And I was like, you know what? It's not worth it, because what he said was, I'm not going to change his mind in 150 characters, one. And two, it's just confirmation that this is why we're doing this important work. So I'm not even going to go there with you online. Like, it's not, and you're not going to stop what I'm doing.
I get what you're saying, but the energy of it is good and bad publicity. I'd be like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Now you done let all your little people know this, and maybe there's somebody trolling them that can be like, oh, this man out here doing this right here. How can I help bring some other people? Like, I love it. I had me a little Twitter this morning because I don't understand why there's things talking about common sense government. And my passion is in conservation and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, and so I'm gonna wait because I'm gonna see, because Twitter ain't my thing. I don't know. I got TikTok just a little bit, but I said But when people do that, Corey, I'm gonna say I admire that. I don't think the Lord has delivered me this late in life to not do that, because that's an attack, and it's hard to not personalize it, especially for you. Like, the whole reason why you are into health was the story surrounding your own mom. So, like, if people knew that, would you still come attack me when I understand personally why health matters when it comes to Black, as well as, let's get there, Black women? Our health is often overlooked, and we're made to feel crazy. Like, I recently, I have carpal tunnel. It finally has been diagnosed. And now I got to figure out this year, do I want to go get the surgery? Can I handle going getting the surgery and be okay with if my house don't look a particular way, because I'm particular? How am I going to manage, makeup? I like to write. I like to knit. What am I going to do? But I went in there all swollen, and the guy was like, are you in pain? I'm like, do I have to say I'm in pain, or can you not see? I mean, night and day difference. I shared with Dana that, like, you see the swelling, and then I get the shot, and it was like, damn, I had the shot like at 11:30, well, about noon. Around 1:30, my hand had the inflation had went away. But we don't talk about enough things that we go through. Like, one of the things I think we plan on talking about our own health experiences when dealing with healthcare as well. For instance, I guess I'll go first, Dana. I got my colonoscopy because we have moved the age requirement to 45 versus 50. So when I got that card in the mail, I'm like, I am not an AARP member, but I guess I am. And I'm about to go get this colonoscopy, and it was the fear. Like, they got to put me under, what if they do find something wrong with me? Because, I understood Chadwick Boswick, isn't that what he ended up eventually losing his life behind? This stuff is serious. And so many people will not go, even though they got the health coverage and that, or the
access to quality health care.
There you go. Thank you. The access. But when you don't really talk about it, you don't know family who does it. Like, from experience, my dad, he would not go to a doctor. And but anyway, so I got a cue to go ahead and let you talk. Sorry.
Well, no, and that's just the thing. Like we come from a lot of black fear when it comes to healthcare is so deeply rooted in racism that it just carries on. So the fact that even myself understanding that preventative care is necessary, knowing that at some point I'm going to have to get those preventative services, I'm scared. You're just
Mhm.
immediately, and I'm not scared to do it, but for some reason there's this fear that like I don't know if I want to I want to do it. You know what I mean? And but when I'm talking to a black man about their preventative services, or even a black woman about their preventative services, and they're like, no, part of me has to force myself to let them know why it's important, because part of me is like, I get it. You know what I mean? Because of how we've been treated. Is like, I ain't even mad at you, but it's my job and it's my mission to kind of break that. So like, yes, there is this past. It is a fact. You cannot, this is not made up. This is a fact that black people have been treated differently in healthcare and still are. You know what I mean? So, but understanding that these services are still important. So I feel like for people like myself and other people of color that are in healthcare, it's our duty to change that narrative as much as we can, but it has to start at the root cause, which is racism.
How do you think that the conversations will go when you're at the conference? How do you expect to really get to the meat of that conversation?
I think for me to get to the meat of that conversation is some of the guests are going to have to get maybe a little bit personal. You know what I mean? They're going to have to tell some of their personal stories, or even, um, or just kind of break out of that PC shell. Now, I'm not saying they have to go off the bridge and say something crazy. You know what I mean? But if the idea for My City, My Health has always been to um, speak truth and make and how can we not only talk about the problem, but how can we have people in the audience leave with one idea to improve or have a solution? Like, we want to create solutions. You can't create solutions if you're just spouting off facts, that happen around across the country. Well, in the country, 55% of people have this. Like, okay, that's great, but we're talking about my city, Des Moines, and what are you doing? You know what I mean, to help the people in Des Moines? How can we do that? Like, I know the facts of whatever the statistic is, but sometimes we have to kind of break away from that to be able to really get some just get some great ideas and some good solutions.
How do you think that having this summit can transform things going forward? Do you feel like everyone will come away with one thing that they can do, when they're working with their patients to change things? Do you really feel like somebody might have that aha moment, like, okay, I can do that, or that makes sense?
Well, the goal is to set the tone with that. So, at the beginning of the summit, I am starting it off before we start our panelists. And that's one of the things I'm going to really encourage those listening. And even though those panelists is, while you're listening to these conversations, what is your one idea? Like, I want you to leave with one idea. Like, listen to these conversations. Something may spark that. I went to a pediatric wellness summit years ago, and somebody said one thing that sparked one great idea, and I kept it to myself. And I'm like, one day I'm gonna do that, and I'm still gonna do that idea. But it just takes one conversation, one person to say something where you're like, yeah, that's not right. What can I do to make a change? And once you take away from yourself, like, what I've learned about anything is, as a helping profession, as a servant of the population that people that I serve, I gotta get out of my own way and say, how can I serve the person? And that's where the ideas come. And the first one may not be a great idea, but at least you're thinking about an idea to solve a problem instead of just listening to the facts and being like, yeah, it's hard out here for Black people, and just moving on. Like, yeah, we know. What you gonna do? Like, what we gonna do?
What are your steps into doing it versus just complaining about it?
Right, because we can even be on video. And I was thinking back to that Dr. Susan Moore. I don't know if you remember her. She was a Black doctor. She got COVID. She kind of almost filmed her whole entire experience with the hospital. They didn't believe her, didn't believe she was in pain. And, she kind of almost filmed her, her own death. And it's like, here she was a doctor, but she still wasn't her. So if you have people like that who, should be heard, or you would think have, that being a doctor carries some weight, and it didn't mean anything. Like, it doesn't matter sometimes what we do. So it's encouraging that you're having a summit like this, because, these things are stopping us from, getting the health services that we need. Like, even when I went to the doctor recently, one of the things that I discovered, and it took some thought really to get at it, and that is that I had to be sedated, and I really didn't want to be at the mercy of, all white staff who might not care for me the way that I would want them to. I didn't know, like, are they going to do their best with me? Like, or am I going to get their A game, or am I they just kind of like, checking in, like, here's this Black woman here, and they see me as some sort of like chart full of like comorbidities or something like that. Do they see me as a human? And I think it's a shame that we have to think about that. Like, we're going to get a test that it's a life-saving test, colonoscopies, mammograms, all of these things that we need to get done on a regular basis. And we can't just have the normal, like, well, I don't want to get my mammogram this time because I don't like the process. We have to drag in with us all of this other stuff, like, how are they going to mistreat me? Are they going to talk to me crazy? Are they going to make me feel some type of way? And that, so I appreciate that you're trying to attack that, because that's, our life expectancy as Black people is already, tanked, especially during a pandemic. So, I mean, somebody's got to do something. So I'm really glad they're listening to you, Corey.
Especially the fact that, hey, you start a podcast, and now your next smart tool is that, hey, how do I connect? Because this is your field of choice that you're into as well. You're using what you have to make the community aware of more, and being an advocate that we don't get to see or hear. I grew up with supporting Black. That meant, especially in my healthcare, my eye doctor, my physician, and all that. Iowa, per se, I don't see enough of that. Even when it comes to like our mental health, like, I would prefer, because I do go to therapy, a Black woman to sit down and talk with, because we relate differently. Wanted to ask you, Corey, as we wind down, who are your future podcast guests that you have coming up?
So I don't have any scheduled. And the reason for that is, one, I wanted to focus solely on my city, my health. I didn't want to have any. When you're doing a podcast, as you guys know, there's a lot of planning, especially when you're doing it yourself. I got to come up with questions, and I got to schedule the time. Then I got to do the snippets for social media. Then I got to do the show notes and the description. I got to do all these things for my podcast. And I didn't want to have to deal with all of that while I was trying to focus on this event. But I will tell you what, the people that I have some people that I have this doctor. His name's Dr. Fully Love. He was a student during the Freedom Summer of '64. He was actually there protesting. He was everything. So he's going to be telling his story. And also he was very, he did a lot. I don't remember if he wasn't a part of the Black Panthers, but he knows a lot about that. So the goal is to tell the people the influence Black Panthers had on public health. They had a
Yes,
huge
they did.
impact on public health.
Yes.
So this next phase of the Healthy Project is really telling more of the story than just having an interview with patients. I'm still gonna do interviews, but I feel like, as you guys know, people want to hear stories. And
that would be great to hear
oh
Black
my
Panther.
gosh.
I mean, because like people don't look at WIC. That was
Yeah.
because Black Panther said, "Oh, we're gonna give you free breakfast," which still happens.
Still happens.
And I ain't seen anybody come along like, "Oh, that's just for Black people." No, it benefited humans.
Yeah, and it's one thing to read about the Freedom Summer of '64, which I didn't know about until I was a whole lot older. I didn't know I didn't know what it was. And then stumbling across this picture of this Black guy who's there, and then finding him on LinkedIn and him being like, "Yeah, I'll do the interview," and it's like, oh my gosh, now I can hear the story from someone that was there.
What's his name again, please?
Robert Fullilove.
Robert Fullilove. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the one that I'm really, really excited about. It's just trying to land them, trying to get a date, but it won't be until after My City, My Health. But just we have a lot of great things in the mix. We have obviously still doing the podcast. Going to be filming a mental health TV show here in Des Moines called Coffee Can't Fix Everything.
What? You gonna hate on the coffee now? You on the wrong podcast to hate on coffee now. But coffee can't fix anything. Okay.
Coffee can't fix everything. So it's a mental health conversation over a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Nice.
And, we're gonna be filming the first episode at the Slowdown on 6th Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So and hopefully many more to come after that. It's going to be it's going to be more of a talk show and less of a podcast. I might extract the audio for a podcast, but with this new phase of the Healthy Project, I just want to do a lot more. And like you were talking about earlier, there's only so much. Once we find our gifts, it's like, okay, where can we support the community? And I've been blessed to be able to have a podcast and I found it. You know what I mean? And now it's like, okay, how can I continue to do this thing, but also support the community? Not only with what I do as a health coach at Broadlawns, but through the Healthy Project and through all these things I plan on doing outside of that. So I say, look, just stay tuned because there's a lot coming.
I'm excited, Corey. I want to be like, hey, so I want to say thank you again for taking the opportunity to come with us. Wanted you to please tell anything else you want everyone to know about your summit. And that's happening November 11th in Des Moines, Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the My City, My Health Equity Summit, like you said, November 11th from 9 to 3, and then 3 to 5, we'll have just drinks and networking. So if you can stay, definitely stay, just kind of enjoy just some good vibes, but it's just going to be really, really Black.
Really, really Black.
In Des Moines, Iowa. All right. I'm here for it. I am here for it. Okay.
You go to mycity.health. Okay. mycity.health. You can look at the lineup of speakers and moderators. Dana has been grateful enough to be a moderator for the community collaboration panel. We have a culture and healthcare panel, a mental health panel, and a preventative services panel, or preventative healthcare panel. And I got some heavy hitters on those panels, and I'm just super excited. Like I said, Renee Hardman is the keynote speaker. So she'll be speaking at the end. And regardless of who's there or how many people are there, whoever is there, they're going to leave there with one great idea to improve the community.
And it's also virtual. So you don't even have to physically be present.
So no, it will not be virtual.
Oh, you took that. Oh, okay.
So that was an executive decision and like only one person signed up virtual decision.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. Okay. But you were being equitable. You're like, hey, you didn't want to leave. And here's why.
But you know what? The reason, and real quick, the reason why I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to be virtual at first, but I was like, you know what? I want people to have the opportunity. So, but I feel like if you're having a my city, my health conversation, it needs to be with the people in that city. So I have my city, my health, Des Moines. I have my city, my health, Iowa City in April.
Okay.
And then we're looking at my city, my health, Minneapolis and Waterloo and Omaha.
Nice.
All
So,
right.
and all of those conversations will be with the people in those cities having that conversation around health equity.
So that's really manifesting what you first predicted when I very first met you, and you said that you wanted to take this thing kind of worldwide. Like, this is just laying the groundwork.
Yes, we're going to finish. Like I think I told you, we're going to have a major health equity summit in every major city in the country, and then finish it with a My World, My Health summit here in Des Moines.
Oh, right. Full circle. I love the execution there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Corey, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us and basically reiterate coffee can't fix anything. It can make you feel better depending on what kind of mood. But and really bringing it in and honing in about what's happening around you and within our community, our Black community.
Yes, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. It's an honor to be on this podcast. It really is. Thank you so much.
Well,
thank you so much, Corey.
All right.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you guys, and tune in and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and we have Instagram, and taking a little snag at TikTok. So hope you'll tune in on episode 2, where we're going to get into elections, because that's happening in Iowa.